I'm here to talk about no estimates. Very controversial topic. A lot of heated debates on Twitter, a lot of blog posts, and so on. I think there are a lot of misunderstandings about what no estimates is. I'll start by telling you what is no estimates in my opinion, and then I'll give you several examples of what kind of alternatives you have for alternatives to estimates. And these examples, they are from my real life, from my work life, so not much theory. Just I hope I can give you something concrete when you get back to work. So what is no estimates? It's like some kind of method like Scrum or Kanban, or is it like 10 steps to no estimates? If you were waiting something like that, then I have to disappoint you. Because no estimates is just a hashtag. Hashtag that collects all the estimation-related discussion in software development world together. It's questioning why do we estimate? Are there any better ways? And I think the core of no estimates is it's the first sentence of Agile Manifesto. We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. That's what no estimates is all about. Woody Jewell is #1 no estimates person in my opinion. He has defined no estimates like this. No estimates is a hashtag for the topic of exploring alternatives to estimates for making decisions in software development. So what other ways do we have to make decisions than estimates? And that's what I'm here to tell you about. Just one more thing. No here doesn't mean never. I'm not here to tell you that, no, you are doing it wrong, you are estimating. You shouldn't do that, never. Think about it like what is NoSQL. There wouldn't be Twitter if there would be only traditional SQL databases. But in those contexts, there has to be options, different kinds of solutions. But NoSQL doesn't mean that you cannot use SQL. Same way for no estimates. It's about finding different solutions, different options. So what are those? I take another one from Woody. He had some kind of workshop where he asked from the participants that, what do you do when you're asked for an estimate? This is what they replied. Let me pick some of them. Guess. I guess. Guess. Reluctantly try to guess intelligently. Oh, that's better. Lie. I don't know. Then there are things like include a margin for scope of work. Pad the estimates to give breathing space. Longer is always better. If the boss wants small estimates, I give you small estimates. How long do I got? But there's one note that got my attention. This one here. It's saying groan and then think what management wants. Let me illustrate this with a volunteer. I was once asked, well, many times, but once asked for an estimate, and this is a real life case from last spring. I need a volunteer. Angel! Woo! You get it back! Okay, the situation is like this. I'm a developer. Angel is my manager, and he's approaching me, and we do a small act here.
Oops. Let's see if it works with the mix. Okay. I'm going to mute this and I'm going to use my voice.
Thanks.
So, hello, Henri.
Oh, hi, Angel. What's up?
I'm going to a meeting, you know, very important meeting, and
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you to do one thing for me, okay, buddy? We need to know which of these tasks that we have here will be done by the end of this month. So could you estimate how long those tasks will take?
I see, I see. May I, however, first ask, what kind of decisions are you going to make based on these estimates?
Well, it's important to inform certain people if this task, this particular task, is going to be done. Because if it's not done, then we have to find another solution for the problem.
Oh. Angel, are you sure that asking the estimates is the right question here? Because isn't the right question, at least initially, that whether we should build this feature at all? Because I think, if I remember correctly, we talked earlier that it actually doesn't make sense to build this feature into our system. It's not kind of part of our application, if I remember correctly. And also the business value of this feature, maybe it's not that high? What do you think?
I guess you're right. There will be so few users that it won't pay back if we build it. Manual work for these cases should be just fine. I'll let them know.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I will just tell them that this won't be done by the end of the month, and actually not at all in the foreseen future. They can inform the necessary stakeholders. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, see you. Thank you, Angel. So what happened? He started with a question that I need estimates. But this is something that Bob was talking a lot. Wanting something is different than needing something. And needing estimates is something than really needing estimates. So he had a need to decide something, and he just chose to use estimates to make the decision. But please don't think that this was a stupid manager, like making that kind of question when the answer was somewhere else. I think the manager in question, he is a very smart person. He's actually one of the best managers I work with. But he just has a habit, like we all have habits. His habit is to solve problems by asking estimates. I'm sure you have seen that a lot. So I promised to give alternatives. This is my first alternative. Instead of giving estimates right away or denying to estimate, which I neither recommend, you should try to understand what kind of decisions are made based on that estimate. And then, when you understand that, think what is the best possible way to help for making the decision. In my experience, estimates quite rarely in software development are the best way to help. Okay. How many of you using Scrum? Almost everybody. You are doing sprint planning? Estimates there? And you cannot stop because then you lose the important conversations, right? That's what the planning poker is all about. I hear that a lot, and I always reply that, are you sure that the estimates are the only way to create conversation? Are you sure that that's the biggest problem your team has? The only way to create conversation is to do estimates. And then one point of view, two people saying that this is 5 points, but the other one is thinking that it's 5 points because of reason A. The other one says it's 5 points because of reason B. But okay, both say 5, and we think that, hey, they agree. It's the same story there in their mind, but for different reasons. No conversation, nice estimates, everybody's happy. I used to work in a team. I joined the team as a Scrum Master, and they were spending a lot of time for estimates. They had user stories, and then they had tasks, and they were doing our estimates for the tasks. And when I joined the team, we changed the estimating method to story points, and then at some stage we changed it to the T-shirt sizes. and then eventually we stopped doing sprint estimates completely. This is a long story, but a couple of points from that. The first one is that you could say that is actually a continuous improvement story, and the estimate is just one point of view of that. The other one is that I like to point out is that one of the most important things that the team learned during the journey they were having is that they learned to split stories into smaller ones. That's what Angel was talking about. Because initially when they were having big stories like 13 points or something like that, that was big for them, they realized that they are very risky. Those are the kind of stories that are very complicated. You cannot make that in one sprint and so on. So we started making smaller stories by splitting them, and that way we were able to get a nicer flow and eventually get rid of estimates completely. So my second alternative, what you can ask in sprint planning meetings is that can we make this story smaller somehow or simpler? That naturally creates conversation. Smaller stories, they are easy to understand, and no estimates needed there. And when you think that, okay, no, I don't think we can split this any further, then you have a decent piece of work you can start working with. And it takes sometimes, it's still valuable from the product owner or team point of view, then you start working with that. And then an important thing, as a side product, you're creating yourself options. I'll get back to this later, but remember that. More about the needs. Usually behind the need to estimate, there is a need to reduce uncertainty. Like, people want to make good decisions. That's a valid need. Unfortunately, in my experience, estimates, they quite rarely, they actually reduce any uncertainty, but they kind of create false sense of certainty. Have you ever been in a situation where like someone comes to you, or maybe you come and ask a developer that, hey, we have this new thing, and what do you think how long it will take to build this? Maybe, I don't know, 2 weeks maybe. And then the number 2 weeks goes into a meeting where decisions are made. And it's a fact now. Yeah, this is 2 weeks. And then decisions are made based on that. And everybody feels kind of safe that, okay, now we know. But where did that 2 weeks come from? From here. In my opinion, best way to remove uncertainty is to actually deliver working software. Or, like in the lean startup context, you don't actually have to even build software. You can go to the supermarket and do some pickle stuff. That's one way as well. Instead of estimating that how much does it cost to build a factory for pickles and chocolate. If I'm a manager and I have a team that is delivering like once a month, I want to have some estimates because I have to know a bit something what's going on here. If my team is delivering every day working software, or twice a day, or every second day or something like that, I couldn't care less about estimates. I'm more interested in what they are delivering next. I'm more interested in that, are they producing value, or are we together producing value? So my third alternative, so if you deliver often, people are not interested in estimates. They're interested in what you deliver next. So try to improve your process so that delivering working software often is a norm. Let me repeat. Try to improve your process so that delivering working software often is a norm. This is really important thing. This is not easy. Probably requires quite a lot of test automation, good building processes, small enough stories or tasks. You have to write good code. If your code sucks, then it's difficult to change. You have to refactor constantly and all those kind of things. And what is interesting here is that if you get here, and by that you get rid of estimates, then that is just a nice side product. What is really cool is that you are getting value, or actually at least you are able to get validated value. But anyway, the estimates, that's not a big deal anymore. One way to look at this thing is that you work in a system. There are certain system conditions that require you to behave in a certain way. You may be right now working in a system with system conditions that require estimating. But let me give you one example outside of software development. I like reading books about software development and a lot of things related to that. And when I read a book and finish it, I'd like to start a new one quite immediately. So if I'm ordering books from the internet to my home, I have to make two kinds of estimates in order to not to have too many days in between of finishing one and starting next. I have to estimate that how long does it take for me to finish my current book, and the second estimate, how long does it take to get the book from Amazon to my home, from States to Helsinki. But what if? Read now. The system conditions just changed with Kindle. So I don't have to worry about how long will it take to finish the current book. I don't have to worry about getting the book with post. I can, whenever I want, I can just buy a new book. Let's get more reasons behind the need to estimate. Here is an organizational part of it. Not sure if you can see it. There is a development team here, Scrum Master developers, PO as a product owner, backlog, and then so-called business team, and here is the Mr. Big Guy making the big decisions, having the money and so on. Salesperson, marketing. Think about that picture for a while. Is there anything wrong? I'll give you another option. Again, here's a development team. Here's the business team. But can you see that the development team here is inside of the so-called business team? The background of this story is such that our team used to be, we were developing a software system that was serving two different businesses. The other business was targeted for consumers. The other one was for companies. They had different kind of pricing models and so on and so on. And so we had a shared code base for those two. And there were two business teams like thinking what should be done next and so on. And that caused many problems for us. One of the biggest problems was with prioritization, so that the other business team was able to think that, okay, inside of our product we should build these features next. And same was for the other one. But then if they tried to compare each other, there was kind of like fight that, okay, what should be done next? So what we did was we split our development team into two parts, and we were still doing developing the same software, and that was not an issue at all. But we were having two development teams, two businesses. The other team, the other side of it, continued working like this: development team, product owner, and then the so-called business people. Our team, where I was here, we changed our structure in this. The problem with this structure is this product owner here in between. He's a communication barrier. Think about the distance between this developer to this big guy. Compare this developer to this big guy. What this meant in practice was, for example, that these people, they were participating in our daily stand-ups. We were having weekly meetings in front of Kanban board where we were discussing our backlog that was really felt like it's our backlog, not like somebody's backlog who is giving what we are reading. Like we were giving a lot of input for that, and I felt that it was really effective, really efficient communication. And when we were talking about arguing about some feature, should we build this one or that one, then when the developers were there and everybody was bringing their own viewpoints in the discussion, and when we went back to our team space and started actually writing code, we had a very good understanding what we were expecting to do. And when we realized during a programming phase that, okay, we found out a new option, we could easily evaluate that, does this fit to our plan? And on the other hand, these people here, they weren't interested in estimates. So if you can build an organization without too many communication barriers and an organization with a higher visibility, then the need to estimate lessens, clearly. That's what I've seen happening. It may not disappear completely, but at least it lessens. The next topic, again about needs. You need to know when something is ready. I mean, in calendar time, like, is it ready next Friday? But in my experience, when people ask when will it be ready, they think that it's the same as asking how long does it take to program it. But you know that that's not all. There's designing, testing, there is refactoring, there's deployment, there is fixing the bugs. There's a lot of things happening. Then there's a release cycle. I don't know how relevant it is to decide or try to understand if this task is 2 hours or 1 day, if your next release will be a month later. The lead time is 1 month. And that's most of this waiting. It doesn't matter if it's 2 hours or 1 day, basically. And then one important is the order of task. You have a backlog, and then there is 20 items, the 20th item is how long does it take to build this? It doesn't matter. There are 19 items before that. Or like Henri was saying, like 300 items. It doesn't matter what the bottom items, how long does it take to build that? Because it takes so long before they get to the top of the backlog. So you can ask, like, instead of asking when will it be ready, you can think that, okay, first of all, how important this task is compared to the other ones from the value perspective. And then, interestingly, if there is a deadline, because when people ask about when is this ready, then they might have a hidden thing behind that. Like, is there some kind of deadline? And if there is, what does it mean if we are late? Let's take another example. We were asked as a team, how long will this take? We asked, okay, so kind of why do you want to know what is behind this question? Okay, there's going to be a marketing campaign. They are going to do some print material, and they need to know that if they should put their mention about this new feature or new product in the material. Because obviously, if they print it out and it's set there and there is no feature, then you're going to have disappointed customers. So that's a valid need to know. But instead of thinking how long will it take to program? We asked two different kind of questions. The first one was cost of delay question. What happens if this feature isn't ready and cannot be marketed? How big market potential are we perhaps losing then? And then opportunity cost question. What happens if this feature is ready, but since we were focusing on that feature, some other features are not ready? It's about choosing which one we should do. What happened in this case, they decided that, yeah, we could have that into marketing material, but it's not that important because this is not such an, we are not going to sell too many products with this certain feature. And we shouldn't focus on that because there are other more important features. So when you ask for an estimate, whatever estimate, and you dig deeper, what is behind that, you may find very logical thinking, and from there you find different solutions. My alternative number something. Consider cost of delay and opportunity cost before short-term development cost. And if you haven't read The Principles of Product Development Flow by Donald Reinhardt, he talks a lot about this. It's a heavy book, but it's really, really, really good one. We talk a lot about individual stories, individual tasks by now, but what if you have like a bunch of tasks to do and you want to know when that collection of stories might be done? Is the only thing we can do is like estimate every one of them and then count together and that's the estimate? What you can do, if you really want to estimate, you can collect the data from your process. Like here, that's from real life again. How many stories per week, for example, call that a throughput. How many stories per week you have in the past finished? What you can immediately say from that picture, for example, is that, okay, if there are 10 stories, they won't be done next week. The maximum has been 4 in the past. It's very unlikely that suddenly we can do 10. And you can use that kind of data to forecast the future, maybe even with some confidence intervals and so on. Somebody say that forecasting, estimating, they are synonyms. Well, I'm fine with that, I don't care. But see the difference between estimate as a guess and estimate based on some data. But notice that if you want to use some historical data, it's not valuable unless the future work is assumed to be very similar to the history, to the old work that already been done. So one more reason to split stories. Like if you look at this picture and then you say that you have one story to do and you have no other items in front of that, it doesn't mean that it's going to be ready next week. Only after you have done the splitting, then you can say that. Is that really the smallest size of work you can do? We are heading to the last one, to interesting new projects. This is what we were talking yesterday in the BUB. Where are my eyes? Anyway, this is a difficult one maybe, because the customer wants to know, is it 4 months or is it 12 months? They need to know. Should they even start building this thing at all? The question is, are you estimating the right thing? And basically this is a lot what Angel was talking about. And especially in software development, because it's emergent activity. We learn a lot while we're doing it. And we should utilize that learning. We should take the new information and so on. So it may be that if you have a backlog like this in the beginning, and then you estimated it, 6 months later, you've done 20% of it, and you have removed a lot of stuff, added some new ones. So I'm asking, what's the value of estimating and making decisions based on that initial guess backlog? So the estimates are guesses probably, but also the backlog is a guess. My option, my alternative. If you have like a €1 million project coming, are you willing to start spending €1 million based on some estimates that's doable? How about if you invest like 5% of it for learning, €50,000, and you already know who is Henri. I'm also recommending reading that book. I definitely widens your agile perspective quite a lot. He talks about build, measure, learn. So software development done well is building working software in small steps. It's about creating options. And you need to have small batch size in order to create those options. What kind of options? Options to continue, options to kill the whole project. If you see that there's no actually value what we are building here, it's better to kill the project when you have spent like €10,000 versus when you have spent 2 million. Option to get new features in and remove the old features and so on and so on. But what if we know that these are the features we have to make? Yes, they are those features. And we just need to know the project cost. Well, like I said in the beginning, no estimates doesn't mean that never estimate. If you think that estimates are the best tool available, then go ahead and estimate. Use the best tool available. But remember that there are alternatives to estimates. Remember, it's about uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Alternatives like, try to understand what kind of decisions are made based on the asked estimates. This is what I've told a lot. Think what is the best possible way to help for making the decision. Replace Scrum sprint planning estimates by asking, can we make the story smaller? Try to improve the process so that delivering often is a norm. Build an organization without communication barriers and high visibility. Consider cost of delay and opportunity cost before short-term development cost. Measure your progress and forecast based on actual data. Do lean startup kind of stuff. Build, measure, learn in small steps. So, what comes to no estimates and alternatives to estimates, that's what I have found. If you are willing to explore, if you're willing to learn, try things out, I'm pretty sure that you can find some others. It's up to you. Thank you.